Anxiety can make you feel powerless, but the truth is you have more control than you think you do. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to take your own power back. Hi, I'm Jess. I'm a holistic nutritionist with a specialization in cognitive health and mood balancing, and I'm also a yoga teacher. So that means I teach how to beat anxiety naturally when therapy and medication just aren't enough. So in this video, I'm going to teach you the 5 major things that made the biggest difference for me and help me manage my anxiety for the long term. I myself have struggled with anxiety for most of my life. I grew up with mental illness in my family, which was really stressful. And then for about 10 years, between 20 and 30, I was in a narcissistic relationship. And then when that started to end around the time I was 30, that was when my anxiety and my physical symptoms from anxiety were just getting out of control. I had chronic back pain. I developed an allergy to milk proteins. I was really anxious all the time, and I was just overwhelmed with all of the stress that came from being in and then ending this really stressful relationship. So I had everything on my shoulders and I felt like something needed to give. So like most people, I went to my doctor and she prescribed me a medication to try. I tried it once and it really just wasn't for me. I remember thinking like I wanted to panic, but I couldn't. And that wasn't really the feeling I was going for. So I just took some time off work, which I was very lucky to be able to do, just to sort through some stress and just kind of take one thing off my plate. And during that time, a friend of a friend was a homeopath, and they actually gave me a remedy to try. And I didn't believe in any of that stuff. I didn't think any of those natural things like really worked. And I tried it just to say that I did and to be polite. And I'll never forget, after like 20 minutes, I felt just clear again. And I felt like, is this how normal people feel when they walk around in their daily life? Because this is great. And then I thought, I can't believe this stuff actually works. Why don't more people know about this? So then I was all in. So I went to go see a naturopath myself, and she helped me kind of get my sleep back on track again and helped me start to feel better. And in a nutshell, over the next couple of years, I finally moved into my own apartment, and I spent a long time really just by myself. I just needed to be on my own and my own energy just to heal and take some time to myself. I really only left the house to like go to work. And that's when I really dove into the whole holistic healing thing. And I started to heal the stress in my body first by looking into diet and movement. And then once my body was feeling less stressed, then I was able to work on the more mindset side of things. So like my limiting beliefs and my self-identity and those subconscious thoughts. After all of this self-healing and trial and error, I realized this is what I wanted to do. So I went back to school. I became a registered holistic nutritionist and a yoga teacher. And I really thought I healed myself. I did heal myself. I was feeling amazing. I felt confident and peaceful again. And this was all around the time where we were all in lockdown mode, 2020, around that time. And the world was just kind of starting to open up again. So I thought, this is perfect. So I was feeling great. I was getting ready to go out into the world again. And I ended up meeting my boyfriend that I'm with now, who's wonderful. And with the world opening up again, it was all super exciting and happy and not bad stuff, but still things that took energy from me, right? Like I wasn't just living in my own little bubble anymore. I had other people and responsibilities. I started a relationship that came with an instant family. So I gained stepkids and a dog, and we all lived together. Plus, I started school full-time in the evenings. So in addition to working full-time, I was going to school full-time at night. And I slowly stopped all that self-care I was doing. My diet changed because I accommodated to eat with a family, and just the stress of blending a family and the stress of work and school and the stress of then starting a new business after school. And then one other big stressful thing happened, and I fell into a cycle of anxiety again. And here I felt really awful because now I was trained to help people balance their nervous systems, and I couldn't even do it for myself. So I hired like a business coach, and she was like, yes, you need to go out there and promote yourself. And I was like, I can't promote myself. I feel like shit. I felt terrible. I felt like a hypocrite. and that I learned all this stuff and I wasn't applying it and I didn't know why. So back to therapy I went, and my therapist reminded me that I had the knowledge. I just needed to adapt to my new normal instead of just trying to get back to the way I was, because that just wasn't my life anymore. And so this took a little bit of work. Like all things in life, this was another learning experience. So as great as I felt before, I realized that by going through this, I still had some perfectionist tendencies that I needed to work through and some more mindset stuff. And it was kind of a silver lining because I also looked into retraining. So I went back to school, did that specialization in cognitive health and mood balancing. And then I was ready to take myself on as my own first client. It felt kind of like starting over, but it was worth it. I was truly able to take myself, with the help of some therapy and coaching, I was able to take myself from feeling anxious and stuck in this imposter syndrome and stuck in that cycle of stress and anxious thinking and overwhelm to go to a place that I can truly say now is really peaceful and balanced. And I feel confident enough to put myself on YouTube. And that's something I couldn't do before. And now I'm super passionate about sharing what I've learned and what I do with you, so you can also feel balanced and confident and diminish those anxious thoughts and take your life back, because that's what anxiety does. Anxiety makes your life feel really small. So the first point I'm going to talk about is supplements. So why start with supplements? This might be a little bit different than other holistic practitioners because usually we try and teach people to get their nutrients from food first. And you should. Supplements are called supplements for a reason. They're here to supplement your diet, not be your diet. But when mental health is involved and when your energy levels and your mental health are so depleted, starting something new, whether it's big or small, it takes a lot of energy. Sometimes just getting out of bed in the morning takes everything you have. So what I do with my clients is we start with supplements. They are a really easy change. Supplements and hydration are two very easy steps that you can take to step forward. So at the end of the day, if you didn't do anything else to take care of yourself, you can say, you know what, I took my vitamins and I drank my water, and that's good enough for today. So I love starting with supplements. There are 3 categories of supplements that I recommend to people: vitamins and minerals, amino acids, and herbal supplements. I'm not going to go over everything that I teach, but I just wanted to put this out there if you're just starting. A really great place to start for vitamins is a vitamin C and a vitamin B complex. Vitamin C is a really powerful antioxidant, and vitamin B is great for boosting your mood, and it's also energizing. And another one I love to recommend is magnesium. Good old magnesium. It does help to calm you. One recommendation, if you're going to take vitamin B, take it in the morning. It's more energizing. Magnesium you can take in the evenings as it tends to calm people down. Next, for amino acids, I want to talk about my favorite one. It's called 5-HTP, and it's a converted form of tryptophan, which is an amino acid and one of the building blocks of proteins. So what tryptophan does is when it's converted in the body, it turns into serotonin. And serotonin is the neurotransmitter in our brains that make us feel happy. If you are struggling with anxiety, try and increase the amount of serotonin in your body, which people who are chronically anxious are depleted in. So 5-HTP can be a really great option. Please check with your doctor before taking it, because if you are taking a medication that affects your serotonin levels already, this can give you too much serotonin. And serotonin syndrome is something that you do not want. So please, please, please don't take it unless you check with your doctor. But it can be a really great option for some people. Next, I want to talk about my favorite herbal supplement. It's ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is an adaptogenic herb, and it helps to calm our nervous system. This one you can take throughout the day. Some people do find it really calming, so you might want to start by taking it in the evenings and see how you do. The next key point that you need to work on to manage your anxiety naturally is your nutrition. Nutrition is really underrated when it comes to managing mental health. It's often an afterthought, but it is actually foundational. There are so many studies that link our diet to mental health these days. There's even a field of science now called nutritional psychiatry, where trained psychiatrists have retrained to be nutritionists as well so they can better manage their patients' mental health issues. There are a couple different goals with diet when we come to talking about eating to manage anxiety. One of them is balancing your blood sugar. Really high and really low blood sugar, not only is it an additional stress on your system, it can mimic the feelings of anxiety when your blood sugar is really low, so that's something we want to avoid. The second goal of eating to manage your anxiety is, again, boosting serotonin. So the way we do this is to improve our gut health. Most of the serotonin in our bodies is actually made in our gut. So if your gut's unhappy, you're not going to have as much serotonin production. So what you can do for this is eat lots of fermented foods, eat foods that are healthy for your gut lining, reduce inflammatory foods like ultra-processed foods, foods high in sugar, refined flours, things like that. You can do all of this without completely overwhelming yourself. I recommend to all of my clients, unless they have something really extreme going on, I recommend that they take the 80-20 approach. So unless you're already eating really, really clean and you're still having symptoms, I don't recommend going on like a whole elimination diet at first. They can be helpful, but they're just not the first thing I go to. So if you aim to eat 80% whole foods, high fiber, high protein with healthy anti-inflammatory fats, lots of protein from that tryptophan, and some gut balancing foods 80% of the time, you'll notice a big difference just in that. And you can still, enjoy the other 20% of your life. So you can eat with your family, you can have dessert or do pizza night. You can feel like you have it all. It's just you need to find that good ratio of mood balancing foods and more stressful foods. I also really quickly want to touch on alcohol here. I'm a big fan of I'll never tell you to completely cut anything out of your life. That is your choice. But I always do like to say, by the way, when I started nutrition school, I was gonna find out why alcohol was good for you. I was gonna find out why it was okay to drink wine. Spoiler alert, it didn't really go like that. So what I will tell you about alcohol is that you are free to drink it, but if you are working toward physical and mental health goals, alcohol will always work against you. There are ways you can consume it so it's not as stressful for your body, but it will always work against you in that capacity, so just something to keep in mind. The third point I want to touch on is movement. Exercise is one of the best anxiety reducers, but it needs to be done in the right way. There is a thing called an exercise-induced anxiety attack. I had the pleasure of learning what this is twice in public. It's not something that's fun to go through. What happens is when you exercise, if your nervous system is already taxed and unbalanced, or if you are trying a really intense exercise and your body maybe isn't there yet, what this exercise naturally will do is raise your heart rate and raise your breathing rate, right? But what happens when you are scared or anxious? Your heart rate goes up and your breathing rate also goes up. So sometimes what can happen is when you're exercising, your body can think that you are in an anxious state or it needs to freak out because you are feeling scared. And then you'll actually have a panic attack. So in order to avoid this, please, please, please take your time. You might need to dial back the high intensity workouts. You might need to replace your daily run with a daily walk. You might need to replace a high intensity workout with a yoga class. Even a hot yoga class, if it gets your heart rate up too much, even that can be taxing. Remember, you might be able to do more physically, but we're training for your nervous system here. So your nervous system might not be up to the task. This might look like doing less than you're capable of physically, but your nervous system will thank you. Not to say that you can't get back to where you were or get to a really high level of athleticism when you're feeling a little more balanced. But for the meantime, your nervous system needs you to take it easy. So those are the more physical aspects to managing anxiety. So once you have those under control, then you can move into the more mindset side of things. And a lot of people ask me, when am I going to be ready enough to kind of tackle the mindset stuff? And there is a way to know, and this is it. When you have anxiety, your life becomes really small. because you feel like you can't manage as many things. So you start opting out of things and saying no to things and not volunteering for things. You make your life smaller. But once you start to feel better, this small life starts to feel really boring. And once you feel bored, that's when you know it's time that you can start adding things back in. When you do start to add things back into your life, like me and my personal story at the beginning, you might feel like you're backtracking a little bit. This is because of your limiting beliefs and your self-identity. You have this thing called an inner thermostat, and it's explained really well in a book written by Gay Hendricks. It's called Your Upper Limit Problem. And it means that we have this internal temperature, this thermostat. We have a certain set point for happiness. We have a certain set point for money, and we like to stay at that set point. So if you've heard like the analogy of people who win the lottery and then they blow it all suddenly and then they end up being even poorer than they were before, that's a good example of the thermostat analogy. We will always come back to what our set points are at. So in order to move past this stuff, you need to change your set point. I went through this when I graduated school and started to get ready to have my own online business. Something was stopping me from promoting myself. Something was stopping me from going out and being in the world as a holistic nutritionist. So I had to work through the limiting beliefs that were coming up so I could expand my life again. Whether the anxiety caused the limiting beliefs or the limiting beliefs caused the anxiety, you need to work to identify what those limiting beliefs are and where they came from, so you can bring them from a subconscious mind into your conscious mind. And then you need to question them. You need to question their validity. You need to question whether they're true or not. And most of the time they're not. And once you can see that and kind of poke holes in those thoughts and beliefs, then you can start to say, okay, well, what is true? What is true for myself? I had this limiting belief that I wasn't a business person. Well, maybe the truth is I have not been a business person in the past. That doesn't mean I can't be now or in the future. So it's taking those limiting beliefs, bringing them into the forefront of your thought and questioning them, shining a light on them, and then seeing that they're not true. And then once you've done that, you're free to rewrite your new beliefs. So the fifth point I want to talk about is an action plan. So now that you have all these new habits going, you need to make an action plan, like a planned routine, a morning routine, a nighttime routine, a weekly routine, and practice it. Keep practicing it when you're feeling good, so that when you have those times where you are feeling more stressed, where you are feeling not as confident or capable, you have these systems to fall back on. The old saying, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems, or something like that. It's very true. And when you plan for the days where your mental health isn't at its peak, that is when you truly succeed. That was my big mistake. When I first started feeling better, I was like, cool, I'm good. I got this, And then life got really hard again and it all kind of went out the window. So to prevent that from happening, what you need to do is always have a plan. This is where your meal planning and prepping comes in. This is where your set time in the morning of doing some breathwork and meditation and some journaling to set your day, that's where that comes into play. So define what you need and then create a solid plan and a schedule to make sure that you stay on top of what you need to do for your mental health. If you want more help, feel free to join my email list. Just download the free guide below and you'll get added on to there. Okay, so the last point, the bonus point that I want to say is get a coach or an accountability partner or a therapist or a friend. Change is hard. We are not wired for change. And when we are anxious, change can feel impossible. What you need is someone who can cheer you on, to help pick you up on the days when you don't feel like you can, so you won't keep yourself going eventually. You won't always need a coach, you won't always need an accountability buddy, but starting something new, it always helps. I always use the analogy You can go on ChatGPT or Google and find a workout plan and take it to the gym and do it. Or you can also hire a personal trainer and meet them at the gym. When you look at those two scenarios, which one do you think has a better outcome of success? Probably the person that hired the personal trainer. Maybe because you invested financially, maybe because you know there's someone there who's going to be disappointed if you don't show up. There's just that accountability and that support there. So that's it. That's all I have for you today. If you want more help with these 5 points, I have an ebook. I'll put that in the link below. It's like having a holistic anxiety coach in your email inbox. We go over all the things that I talked about in this video and more. I go over stress mapping and how to identify what your stressors are. There's a 7-day eating plan in there, a supplement plan. There's everything that you need to get started. Thank you for sticking with me till the end. I hope you found these tips helpful. I strongly encourage you to implement some of them. Anxiety relief doesn't have to stop at prescription medication and talk therapy. There is so much more that you can do for your body and your mind to reset and rebalance. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.